to get down with you. And I want to encourage you today. Everybody just sitting here. But no matter what you're going through, no matter what the circumstance is, God is there all the time. If you look up, He's there. If you look down, He's there. And I want you to come around. Help me tell these people this morning that God is there all the time. No matter what the situation, He'll be there.
in the house of the Lord. One more time. I don't believe I need this. Just good to be here. Just one more time.
My Lord, glory.
I'm not going to be before you long, but we want you to turn your attention to the book of 2 Corinthians, 12th chapter. Let's look at 10b. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 10b. Your Bible might not be labeled that way, but that's how I'm looking at it, because that's all I want to deal with is the latter portion of the 10th verse.
Amen.
Are you there yet?
Amen.
Just stand. The word of the Lord for the people of God. When I was weak, I am become strong. Is that where I'm at?
No.
Therefore I take pleasure.
Yes.
That's A. I'm talking about B.
Yes.
When I was weak, then am I strong. Let me say that again. When I was weak, then am I strong. You may be seated in the presence of the Lord.
All right, Pastor.
It hurts, but I'm still preaching. It hurts, but I'm still serving God. It hurts, but I'm still doing the will of my Father. It don't feel good. I don't like it. Sometimes it's unbearable and I can't stand it, but I'm going to stay on the Lord's side. Sisters, friends, if you will, get that mic. I want you to come down here. Just for a moment. And if the Spirit of the Lord tells you, take this message away from you. Because it ain't about me, it's about you. Come on over here. For those of you that have forgotten, or don't remember, or still really don't know, God said, this is your example of Paul in these last days. This is your Pauline example when it comes to suffering. Paul said in his writings concerning suffering, I suffer for the cause of Christ. God said, don't look at the preacher today, look at my example. Don't look at Reverend Spring, look at the overseer, because I want you to focus on my Pauline example. From the very beginning of this church, God gave you this gift of suffering. Sometimes we wonder why it happened. But God had a purpose. Not only did God have a purpose, He still has a purpose. Sometimes we go through and we don't understand why it is, but God has a reason. My nephew asked me one day, the other day, he said, Uncle Brady, why? He's always asking, why this? And when you give him an answer, he got another why. And then another answer, why? And then another answer, a question, why? And before you know it, I'm almost out of answers. But it reminds me of the watch builder or was a watch collector. He built it, was his hobby. He was traveling with his little daughter. And they were traveling and getting ready to board a train, and she had a clear blue stare like Simeon. She asked him a question. Daddy, what is sexual sin? And the dad thought for a moment. He said, honey, get my bag. And when she reached down to get the bag, it was so heavy she couldn't pick it up. And all of a sudden she said, Daddy, I can't bear it. He said, well, honey, when you get old enough, I'll have that answer for your question. Right now, you can't bear it. For a number of years, you watched your example, the overseer, and you asked God why she got to go through what she goes through. I don't know why. If it was happening to me, I couldn't bear it. And God's saying that's why it ain't happening to you, because you came back. You're not equipped. She is Pauline example in your midst. Paul himself asked God many a time to heal him, but God allowed him to stay afflicted because God wanted him to be an example to the body of Christ. Sometimes some of you won't get through what you're going through if you did not have this example. Some of you won't survive the turmoil in your life if you didn't have this example. And I'm thankful that God gave me a front row seat. I have a box office. We've been together almost 40 years, but when we was in our 30s, Satan came and afflicted her body. Her children was 5 and 2, and the doctor said, who gonna raise them? You ain't got many days to live, but look at God. God allowed her to stay afflicted all of these years because he knew 30-some years down the road, you gonna have to deal with something. But he wanted you to keep remembering what he did in her life when she had to deal with something. When the doctor said, you ain't gonna live, you're gonna die in about 18 months. 30-some years done gone by. Matter of fact, 38 years have gone by. So God wants her to continue being that example to you so you can get through your mess, your suffering, your agony, your pain, your misery, your diseases. She is your example. Walk with me. Walk with me. Walk with me. Some of it sometimes look at her with pity. But you know I can pity her because her strength is in God. When she's weak, she's made strong. Her best friend died, which was her mother. And before the funeral, 2 days later, she walked up in here and preached the gospel. Her mama laying on the cold slab at the funeral home. She's up in here preaching gospel of Jesus Christ. God wanted her to do that so you can get some strength. So when you go through similar situations, you won't fold up like a $2 suitcase, but you'll be strong in the Lord and in the power of His might. You'll put on the whole armor of God. Yes, sir. This journey ain't for wimps. It ain't for wimps. It ain't for wimps. The Apostle Paul was dealing with, you can sit down if you want. He was dealing with false apostles. Let's go ahead and sit down. They was trying to discredit him, trying to say he is not an apostle. But Paul made it plain, I'm not apostle of men. Men didn't ordain me to be an apostle. I got it from God. And he said, some 14 years ago, it sounded like he was talking about somebody else, but he was talking about himself. He said, some 14 years ago, I don't know whether in body or in spirit, I knew a man that was called up into the third heaven. And he was shown some things not permitted for him to speak. And he was talking not about the atmosphere where the birds fly. He wasn't talking about where the sun and the moon are. He was talking about where God is. He was translated supernaturally into heaven. And God showed him some things that he wasn't even able to permit or to speak about. So when God did this, God also gave him a thorn so he wouldn't get the big head and get beside himself and begin to boast a little bit. But here he was defending his apostleship. So he had to do a little boasting. He didn't do it on himself. He did it on his infirmity. He bragged about all his afflictions, being shipwrecked, being beaten, being left for dead, being in prison, and all of that. He bragged on what he was doing for God. See, a lot of things, a lot of our suffering has nothing to do with the cause of Christ. But I'm going to tell you something. As long as you in this physical, Paul put it like this: if this earthly house this tabernacle shall be dissolved. The fact is, it's going to dissolve. It keeps on leaning. Every day there's a new age and a new break. And you asking yourself, where did that come from? Where did this place? So all of your physical affliction ain't always necessary or associated with the cause of Christ. But everything Paul suffered was because he made his mind up that I'm going to do God's will. Theologians said his suffering was his eyesight. Some say he just paying for how he treated the church. And others say, now he's going through too for supporting those that stoned Stephen. But God said, no, I'm going to give him a thorn so he won't get the big head. Because not like many of us, a lot of us was nobody, but Paul was somebody. He was a Pharisee. He sat under the seat of the man. He was very educated. He was somebody. Now he done been translated and made an apostle out of Caesar. So he had a reason to boast, but he wouldn't do it in himself. He did it in God. So God gave him that to keep him humble. So God has given us this example. I said it earlier, I have a front row seat. I see when she's hurt. I see when she's suffering. I see when she's in pain. But I also see her strength. I see her strength in God. Though he slay me. That's what I see in myself. Though he slay me. Glory to God. Will I trust him? I've heard talking to God, not wanting to disturb me, hurt, turning over, facing the wall, whispering to God. And so I've witnessed it. prior to my surgery. And here she waiting on me. And I know she ain't feeling 100%. But I still see her strength in God. She's going to do what God gives her strength. To the day she dies. So I don't even try to slow her down. I don't even tell her you need to quit. I just leave her alone because guess what? She's in God's kingdom. Amen. So Paul is saying, and I see this in my life. Paul said, I take pleasure. Don't nobody tell me like to hurt. Don't nobody like to go through suffering, pain, and trouble, and agony. But she takes pleasure to suffer for the cause of Christ. Because she knows she just didn't get it because she got it. She got it because she loved the Lord. And God had already given the enemy a man that you can't do nothing with her. You can't make her turn around if you want to. You can't make her backslide if you want to. You can't make her stop serving me if you want to. I know what I have in the overseas. Amen. So family, y'all witnessed it. Just like I witnessed it. The power of God in her life. And these words of Paul jump out at me. I hear my wife say, though you slay me, yet I trust you. And the suffering of this present time shall not be compared to the glory that when we see the glory associated with our suffering, then it won't get our muscles all messed up and twisted up about what we're going through. Paul said, though the suffering of this present time doesn't affect my future. In other words, he said, it can't even compare. There is no comparison with when I go. I might not can walk. I might not can talk. I might not can move. I might not can turn over. But this is temporary suffering. After a while. All right. When this earthly tabernacle is dissolved, I have a building. Not made by the hands of men. Not temporary. He said eternal in the heaven. So we have to fasten our eyes and our attention on the future. Can you say amen? I know one day my tongue gonna be glued to the roof of I know that. Why? Because I am still a victim of the curse. Even though I've been delivered from the curse of the law, I am not, this flesh cannot be delivered from the curse of disobedience in the garden. So every day I'm going to die. Because God said, if you eat of this, you will die. And when Adam and Eve ate, they died and they passed death down to me. So now the word of God comes true. Man born of a woman is of a feudate and full. But the trouble that I'm full of had nothing to do with what my future's about. Theologians say Paul suffered because what he done. No. The suffering Paul's going through, this is happening to the new man. Not the old man, but the new man. When Paul met Jesus on the road to Damascus, guess what? He got changed and his name. So all of the suffering that he's suffering now is what God showed him. He said, I'm going to show him men. Glory to God. He must suffer not because of his role, not because of what he's done, but because he's going to stay true to it. He's going to fight the good fight of faith. He's going to stay power, first of all, of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. A lot of Christians won't know Jesus in the power of his resurrection. We won't get up. Can you say amen? We living to get up again. But how many are living to suffer? How many are willing to go through for the cause of Christ? Sometimes I wonder, how can she make it? How can she take it? Seems like every time she turn around, this is coming. That is coming. This is coming. That is coming. When it first happened, some preacher told her, "Sir, you must have done something wrong." So one of them blind Baptist preachers. They're always talking about, if you don't go to the cross, you ain't preached. Which ain't true. You know why Baptist preachers go to the cross? Because they ain't spent no time with God. And it gets them through when they ain't got nothing else to say. They can holler, "He died." Yes, it did. He died. Yes, it did. That's why they go to the cross, because they didn't spend no time with God. And this was a problem Paul was having in his own. He started Corinth. This was his third trip, and all of those false prophets done snuck in there, preaching another Jesus. Paul said, if any man preach anything to you except Jesus Christ and him crucified, let it be a curse. Now what he's talking about when he said preach Jesus Christ and him crucified, he's talking about preach what Jesus done to bring you back to God. You don't have to preach the cross. Preach what he done. He died for you. You should have died, but he died in your stead. That's what Paul is talking about. If they ain't talking about Jesus being your substitutionary sacrifice, they ain't preaching. When God put Sister Springs in our midst 38 years ago to be an example of his power and his strength, to demonstrate and show us that you can get through it. You can get, doesn't matter what the enemy is throwing at you. Paul suffered more than any man or woman of God in Scripture. Physically, emotionally, socially, he suffered. He had enemies. Some of us can't stand it when somebody says something negative about us, but Paul had folk that literally hated him, hated his guts, could not stand what he stood for, which was righteousness. You walk in righteousness, folk will hate you. They won't like what you have to say because they think you're trying to be self-righteous. And all you're doing is trying to inform them of God's standards and be at the same time be an example. So God put Sister Spring, the overseer, in our midst to get us through. Some folk want to be in ministry, but you can't handle it. A lot of folk want to go into ministry. You can't handle what God expects of you when it comes to going through. When it comes to physically and emotionally suffering. And many of us preachers have quit because folk didn't like our message. I ain't gonna get mad if folk don't like it. Ain't my message. I'm just a mailman. God gave me mail to deliver. Now it's up to you if you want to open up the envelope and read it, but God said deliver. He didn't tell me to force feed nobody. He said deliver the message. And if they don't receive it, shake the dust. So I've never been in ministry to be popular with nobody or no church. I'm just here to deliver it. But she is our example. When I am weak. Brother Tommy, Satan hates it. When what he's doing to you don't cause you to fold up the tent.
That's right.
Woo. Paul said, only when this earthly house is dissolved.
Yeah.
That's when my ministry go in, when the house is dissolved.
Yeah.
Which means God is through with what I'm doing. And it's time to go on and be with Him.
Yes. Well,
This example that God has put in our midst, in the person of Overseer Spring, is for our benefit. All she's been through is for you. All she's going through is for you. But guess what? All of it's adding up to her reward. It's all adding up to her reward. But she's hurting for you. She's suffering for you. She's sick for you. So when your turn comes, who goes? You will have faith and hope and trust in God. And He will bring you through also. Can you say amen? Y'all heard me say it years ago. I've had about 3 operations now in my lifetime, but the first one I had, when they put me under it, I was scared. I wasn't scared of the surgery. I was scared of not waking back up. But when you're in God, whew, none of that moves you no more. They put you to sleep if they want to. You ain't even wearing, or you ain't even, your mind ain't even on going to sleep and not waking up. You just want it to get over with. Because you know in whom you trust. This example. Some have caught on to it over the years, and some are yet to learn. But saints, one day you're going to need what she got. Which is her trust in God to get you through what He's got her through. To take you through the storms and the rain. Glory to God. To enable you to navigate the rough days ahead. So that you'll be able to smile when you see the sunshine. This is our example of Paul in this church. We ought to consider ourselves blessed for God to care that much about us. To enable somebody to stand, having done all, to stand, having done what come what may. Like I was saying, sometimes we're wondering how she do it. Some are still wondering, how does she do it? It is the grace and the strength and the power of God in her life. And it happened because she made a qualitative decision to serve the Lord wholeheartedly. A lot of what Paul went through would have consumed him if he was high-stepping. If he hadn't been for real, he's in and out, hot and cold. A lot of what he dealt with or had experienced would have consumed him, but he made up his mind that I'm going to serve God wholeheartedly, unending to the day that I die. And that's what she's done. From a young girl to a 66-year-old woman, she has stayed with God. And God has seen her through. And He'll do the same for you.
But it only happens, Sister Susan, if you trust Him and serve Him. God is not obligated about to take me through it if I'm not faithfully serving Him. But because of her faithfulness, glory to God, that is one of her rewards on this side, that God is keeping her. Even though the enemy wants to destroy her. That is one of her rewards on this side of eternity, that God is keeping her. And I'll share this when I sit down. Almost 22 years ago, after battling with sickness and disease for a number of years, I believe to begin with, her first thought was, God, let me see my children grow. And God honored that prayer. But then it seemed like it started coming more heavy and more severe. And I believe she's not a quitter. She don't give up. But I believe she kind of experienced like this might be the end it is. But I'm going to show you what God did. Sometimes I finish this week and we get like Job, I wish I'd never been, because of what we're going through. I think at that period of time she was kind of feeling not like giving up, but it ain't worth fighting anymore. But then all of a sudden, her teenage son got to doing something he had no business doing. Doing stuff what she called grown-up stuff. Next thing you know, Shaquille comes along. And I seen God in that. I strongly believe that she would have just quit trying to see this thing through and go on and be with God. I seen her having that feeling like Paul. I'm torn betwixt and between. I have a desire to go and be with God, but then again, Shaquille shows up. I strongly believe that God allowed Shaquille to be born, even though it was in sin, for her survival. I believe that child, brother, God allowed it to be born so it would give her hope and a desire to keep pressing her. Cheryl, I can literally see just the presence of that child, just holding it, pumping life. I can see my wife's body beginning to be invigorated just by holding that child, that precious baby, that gift that God had given. So I try to encourage him sometimes. I say, son, keep your head. Don't feel like you nothing to nobody. Your existence is because God made you for your nana. So that your manna would keep on living. 20-something years ago, Brother Greg, I believe she just said, honey, I see you. I'm going home. I'm going home. I'm going home to be with Jesus. But all of a sudden, here comes Shaquille. I believe I'll stay here. Just a little bit longer. And stand here till you got a little bit stronger. Trusting and relying on God. Somebody said it. What'd you say about Shaquille? She'll hurt you over here. I don't care how old you get, she'll hurt you over here. Because I truly believe she knows that that's what God gave her. Keep on, keep that on. Glory to God. So if any of the other grandbabies feel slighted, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Any family member, even her, if you feel slighted, I'm sorry. Because that's what God did for her. He's special. Always will be. Get mad if you think about mistreatment. Because she knows that was her gift from God. Ooh, glory. Hallelujah. Our Pauline example. When you're going through, just look at overseas. When you're dealing with something that seems insurmountable, just ask yourself, how does she have it? And the question or the answer will be through Jesus. Through Jesus. Through Jesus. When you feel like you can't make it, you want to give up, take a look at your overseer. She is real example for believers in these days that God will be your very present in troubled times. So pick your head when you're dealing with things. Know that God is on your side. If it be for you, who can be against you? To be for you, who can be against you? She is our example of the power of God. What God can and will do. He's a very present help in troubled times. Do you believe that? Yes. He's a very present help in troubled times. Paul faced a lot of trouble, more than any of us can even think about dealing with. But God seen him through it. Can you say that? Even he was smacked. Can you say that? Paul was speaking about Jesus and intended to preach over all of and slapped. And Paul had angered Paul. And he said, well, who are you to slap me, you unwashed wall? Called him a name. Didn't know he was an authoritative figure. Didn't apologize because he knew, he found out he had some authority. And he apologized for saying what he said to him. But the man insulted him by slapping. One of the greatest insults that you can ever experience is being slapped. Amen. And I'm one of these people, don't slap me. That's a warning. Don't slap me, because that's an insult. It's almost like, you know, that little triangular rubber hammer that the doctor sits you in the chair and hits you on your knee. You ain't got no control. You slap me, then all of a sudden, I'm just being true. Amen. Don't know if I made that clear or not. My wife ain't never slapped me. Because there's a reflex. I'm serious, y'all. It's funny, but I'm serious. Paul was talked about and lied on and slapped. But those are insults. But he stayed true to God. Kept fighting the good fight of faith. Why? Because he knew what was waiting on him. I say it all the time, I'm jealous of Paul because Paul has seen where we're going. He actually been there. That's why he could fight that good fight of faith, because he already been to heaven. Me and you, neither of us have been, but he said, eyes have not seen. He ain't talking about his eye, he's talking about your eye. Ears ain't heard, neither has entered into the hearts of men the things that God has prepared for them that love. Then he goes on and says, but he has revealed it by his Spirit. I know what's waiting on me. That's why I'm walking right. That's why I'm acting right. That's why I'm talking, because I know what's waiting on me. Folks appreciate the gift and the example in the person of Overseer Springs, because it is for our benefit. God bless you.
Glory to God.